We are hearing SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. Demigods are praying to Supreme Lord. You are the original personal founder of all the demigods and the orders of different gradations. Yet you are the oldest and are unchanged. O Lord, you have no source or superior. You have impregnated the external energy with the semen of the total living entities, yet you are unborn. Tato vayam mat pramukayat arte babu vi matman karavama kimte tvam nah svachakshu paridehi shaktya deva kriyarte yat anugrahanam. O Supreme Self, please give us, who are created in the beginning from the Mahatattva, the total cosmic energy, your kind directions on how we shall act. Kindly award us your perfect knowledge and potency so that we can render you service in the different departments of subsequent creation. This also we heard already. Now next chapter starts. Creation of the universal form. Rishir Uvach. Iti tasam svashaktinam satinam asametya sah prasupta loka tantranam nishamya gatim ishvara. The Rishi Maitreya said, the Lord thus heard about the suspension of the progressive creative functions of the universe due to the non-combination of his potency, such as the Mahatattva. And this also we heard. I don't know where. Yes, I will read till 5th verse. The Supreme Powerful Lord then simultaneously entered into the 23 elements with the goddess Kali, his external energy, who alone amalgamates all the different elements. This we heard. And thus, when the personality of Godhead entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from sleep. There we also heard one is, we are awakened into our karmic conditioning and we work. Another is when we are awakened into our real self, then we start working for Krishna. When the 23 principal elements were set in action by the will of the Supreme, the gigantic universal form or the Vishwarup body of the Lord came into existence. Parena Vishata Swasmin Matraya Vishwasri Gana Chaksho Bhanyonyam Asadya Yasmin Lokas Charachara. As the Lord, in his plenary portion, entered into the elements of the universal creation, they transformed into the gigantic form in which all the planetary systems and all movable and immovable creations rest. We also heard this. Hiran Mayach Sapurushach Sahasra Parivatsaran Anda Kosha Uvasapsu Sarva Sattva Pa Brimhita. The gigantic Virat Purusha, known as Hiranmaya, lived for 1000 celestial years on the water of the universe, and all the living entities lay with him. here in commentary, SRIMAD saying, after the Lord entered each and every universe as the Garbhodakashai Vishnu, half of the universe was filled with water. The cosmic manifestation of the planetary systems, outer space, etc., which are visible to us, is only 1/2 of the complete universe. Before the manifestation takes place, and after the entrance of Vishnu within the universe, there is a period of 1000 celestial years. All the living entities injected within the womb of the Mahatattva are divided in all universes with the incarnation of Garbhodakashai Vishnu, and all of them lie down with the Lord until Brahma is born. Brahma is the first living being within the universe, and from him all other demigods and living creatures are born. Manu is the original father of mankind, and therefore in Sanskrit mankind is called Manushya. Humanity in different bodily qualities is distributed throughout the various planetary systems. That verse is from Manu Sanhita, Jala Janavalakshani Stavara Lakshavinshati, Krima Ruda Pakshande, Chatur Lakhani Manava. At the end, Manava or Manusha. My video is going slow. I will just restart my video, 1 second. Still, it's going very slow. Now is now okay. So human species are less in number in comparison with all other species. Others are 8 million. Human beings are only 400,000. So they're very small in number, very rare, but very valuable. Because only in human life one can do bhajan and be rescued from this material existence. So we should not waste it. Savai Vishwa Srijam Garbho Deva Karmatma Shaktiman Vibhabhajatmanatmanam Ekadha Dashada Tridha. The total energy of the Mahatattva in the form of the gigantic Virat Rupa divided himself by himself into the consciousness of the living entities, the life of activity, and self-identification, which are subdivided into 1, 10, and 3 respectively. This is also in Upanishad, so I will read here commentary. Consciousness is the sign of the living entity or the soul. The existence of the soul is manifest in the form of consciousness, called Jnana Shakti. The total consciousness is that of the gigantic Virat Rupa, and the same consciousness is exhibited in individual persons. The activities of consciousness, that is Jiva, is performed through the air of life, that is Prana, which is of 10 divisions. This is, in Upanishads you will find this very elaborately explained, how this is all functioning and how everything is related to each other and connected in this material creation by the will of Krishna. All these senses and material objects and presiding deities and everything is, but there is complete science behind this. Nothing is like coincidence. Some big bang came and it blew up, and then some combination. No, everything is under strict will of Supreme Lord, how everything is made and how it is functioning. So prana is divided, you have these 10, but there is one chief prana. There in Upanishad you will find one chapter, in 2 Upanishads you will find the same. Once senses they were quarreling, who is the best? Then I think Brahma or someone said that you give up the body and see what happens. So first I went out, and after 1 year he came back and the body was normally living. Then he said, how you could live without me? They said, like a blind person, but all other activity, air, we were hearing with air, we were thinking with mind, walking with feet, all this we were doing. Then he entered back. Then air went. And again, air came back, how you could live with me? Then they said, like a deaf man, but all other functions we were doing. And like this, mind also went. Then mind came back, and how you could live? Like a foolish person, no knowledge. But other functions we were doing. But when prana wanted to go out, then everything was disturbed. All senses, prana just little moved her position little up, and all senses they had to follow, and they became afraid. And then it was proved that prana is the chief of all them. Without prana, no one can function anything. And prana is instrument of jiva. So when prana leaves, then nothing, no function. And if prana is okay in the body, that is why if you do pranayama, a yogic process, then all your bodily functions will work well, if your prana is well. So there is complete science behind this. These topics are there. Which is often the airs of life, means prana, are called prana, apana, udana, vyana, and samana. And there it is explained what is the function of each. And are also differently qualified as naga, kurma, krikara, devadatta, and dhananjaya. The consciousness of the soul becomes polluted by the material atmosphere, and thus various activities are exhibited in the false ego of bodily identification. These various activities are described in Bhagavad Gita as Bahushaka hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasainam. The conditioned soul is bewildered into buddhayo vyavasainam. The conditioned soul is bewildered into various activities for want of pure consciousness. Jiva is pure consciousness, not polluted by any material thing. But when pure consciousness is marginal potency, consciousness means free will. Without free will, there is no conscious being. So jiva, those jivas who wanted to enjoy this maya, they were enveloped by maya. That false ego came, and from that false ego, false desires, and then all these materialistic activities are happening. Jiva is giving energy, but using this all as instruments, and the prana comes. Prana is very important. The consciousness of the individual soul, yes, in pure consciousness, the activity is one. The consciousness of the individual soul becomes one with the supreme consciousness, means devotion, one in interest. When there is complete synthesis between the two. You will find in Gopal Tapani Upanishad, there is that Soham, I am he, or Gopaloham, I am Gopal. But Jiva Goswami explained, it means that you are one with him, you are he, because you are fully in his interest. So you are one with him. In that way, one has to understand. This is one kind of devotional statement, that you are not separate from him. You are one with him in interest. Means you are engaged in his service. So you are him in that sense. The consciousness of the individual soul becomes one with the Supreme Consciousness when there is complete synthesis between the two. The monist believes that there is only one consciousness, whereas the sattvatas, or the devotees, believe that although there is undoubtedly one consciousness, they are one because there is agreement. On transcendental plane, you will find that there are two birds inside the body, and they are friends. It is not that only Arjuna is friend of Krishna, and Krishna is friendly to Arjuna. No, to all jivas, because they are two friends. But when jiva wants to enjoy, then is reaping the fruits, and is always in lamentation. Krishna is only seeing. But when jiva will turn towards Krishna and be dovetailed with his interest, then jiva loses that lamentation and gets bliss. So there is agreement, and with all other jivas also in agreement. In Golok Vrindavan or any transcendental realm, Krishna is in the center, everyone is serving him, and all are in agreement on this point, that Krishna should be served. There is, of course, in Lila, there is also like a rivalry and like this, but that is also all for the satisfaction of Krishna, not because of any selfishness like we have in this world. So everything is in agreement, so that is like one consciousness, one. Everything is harmonious. Nitya Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam. One chief eternal among many eternals, one chief conscious among many conscious, and one is fulfilling the desires of others by prema. So in that sense, I am Soham, I am he, I am Gopal. In that sense, that all is in agreement, so non-different from him. Yes, here Sai Maharaj is telling, same. The individual consciousness is advised to dovetail with the Supreme Consciousness as instructed by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman prityaja mam ekam sharanam braja. The individual consciousness, Arjuna, is advised to dovetail with the Supreme Consciousness and thus maintain his conscious purity. It is foolish to try to stop the activities of consciousness, but they can be purified when they are dovetailed with the Supreme, in agreement with his desire. Of course, not that Sai Maharaj is telling same as me. I learned from him, but I'm telling that here also in this commentary he expressed in this, but I have no knowledge. I learned everything from him and from Gurudev Vaishnava Shastra. This consciousness is divided into three modes of self-identification according to the proportion of purity. Adhyatmic or self-identification with the body and mind, Adhibhautika or self-identification with the material products, and Adidevika or self-identification as a servant of the Lord. Of the three, Adidevika self-identification is the beginning of purity of consciousness in pursuance of the desire of the Lord. That is beginning, that we are servant of Krishna, eternal servant. Mayavadis, they will also worship deity, they will chant Maha Mantra, they will do everything, but with a view to get liberation, because they think this is also Mike, all this devotion and Krishna's for all Mike. So not that kind of devotion, but actual devotion, when one realizes that he is eternal servant of Krishna. Krishna is eternal, Jiva is eternal, their relation is eternal. So beginning is this, and then gradually, the more one becomes engaged in the service of Krishna and purifies all other things, then he will realize more and more about himself in Lila of Krishna, about your name, form, or seva for the Lila. Esha Hyashesha Sattvanam Atmang Shah Paramatmanah Adyo Vataro Yatraso Bhuta Gramo Vibhavyate. The gigantic universal form of the Supreme Lord is the first incarnation and plenary portion of the Supersoul. He is the self of, means Atma, of an unlimited number of living entities, and in him rests the aggregate creation which thus flourishes. Sadyatma Siddhi Devascha Sadi Bhuta iti Tridha Virat Prano Dashavida Ekada Hridayena Cha. The gigantic universal form is represented by 3, 10, and 1, in the sense that he is the body and the mind and the senses. He is the dynamic force for all movements by 10 kinds of life energy, prana, and he is the one heart where life energy is generated. Because all this is his energy, material energy, so non-different from him. Yes. Here Sai Maharaj is telling that all these material elements, 8 in number, they are products of Lord's inferior energy, external energy, and jivas are superior energy. The 8 inferior energies work grossly and subtly, whereas the superior energy works as the central generating force. This is experienced in the human body. The gross elements, namely earth, etc., form the external gross body and are like a coat, whereas the subtle mind and false ego act like the inner clothing of the body. The movements of the body are first generated from the heart, and all the activities of the body are made possible by the senses, powered by the 10 kinds of air within the body. I said before that prana. If prana is not there, nothing will work. Yes, the 10 kinds of air are described as follows. The main air passing through the nose in breathing is called prana. The air which passes through the rectum as evacuated bodily air is called apana. The air which adjusts the foodstuff within the stomach and which sometimes sounds as belching is called samana. The air which passes through the throat and the stoppage of which constitutes suffocation is called the udana prana air. And the total air which circulates throughout the entire body is called the vyana air. Subtler than these 5 airs, there are others also. That which facilitates the opening of the eyes, mouth, etc. is called naga air. The air which increases appetite is called krikara air. The air which helps contraction is called kurma air. The air which helps relaxation by opening the mouth wide in yawning is called devadatta air. And the air which helps sustenance is called dhananjaya air. All these airs are generated from the center of the heart, which is one only. This central energy is superior energy of the Lord, who is seated within the heart with the soul of the body, who acts under the guidance of the Lord. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto matak smritir jnanam apochanam cha vedescha sarvair aham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva chaham. The complete central force is generated from the heart by the Lord, who is seated there and who helps the conditioned soul in remembering and forgetting. The conditioned state is due to the soul's forgetfulness of his relationship of subordination to the Lord. One who wants to continue to forget the Lord is helped by the Lord to forget him birth after birth, but one who remembers him by dint of association with a devotee of the Lord is helped to remember him more and more. Thus the conditioned soul can ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. The process of transcendental help by the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita as follows. If one wants to know in detail about this science, how this body works, and my subtle body, and how Jiva is involved, and how Supreme Lord is involved, in detail you will find there. But it is not so easy to understand also, but if many times, then you can connect the dots, how speech is one thing, and it is related to fire, and fire to form, and like I is connected to the sun deity and to I forgot. Everything is perfectly arranged, perfectly connected. It's complete science. Nothing is out of hand. Nothing is coincidence. Everything is under the control of Krishna through different these things, and about how to go to higher planets and how Jiva gives up the body and who will again take birth, and how the birth is coming, how the functions are gradually coming, and how they are shut down, and how during sleep also how they will go, and in dreaming state, and then deep sleep. Everything is described by Krishna himself, because Upanishads, they are Shruti, they are his. Here this verse says, Vedanta Krit. I am the author of Vedanta. Vedavid eva chaham. I know all the Vedas. Vedas, the final conclusion portion, are the Upanishads. That is Shruti, that is coming directly from Krishna, so there is no speculation there, and guessing and researching and this. No. Direct how it is, how everything is functioning. Like in Ayurveda, also coming from Krishna, Dhanvantari. So Krishna knows how this body works and why diseases are coming and how they can be cured. Perfectly he knows. No research necessary for him. And there are no mistakes like this. So here Krishna is telling in Gita, Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. I am the central point of the Vedas. And I compiled Vedanta, means Upanishads, and Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva, he is also Krishna. Shakti Aveshavatar explains the Upanishads that so that you will not be confused, because sometimes Atma refers to Jivatma, sometimes Atma refers to Paramatma, sometimes Prana refers to Supreme Lord because he is giving the life to all entities, and sometimes he is material element, and sometimes Akash, that is sky, unlimited sky, is referring to Krishna, Supreme Lord, because he is everywhere, like Akash. So sometimes he is called Akash, but sometimes this material sky. So if one does not study under the guidance of realized Guru, then he may confuse what is meant here and all this. That is why you will find in Upanishads, also all Vaishnavas, our Gurudev was repeatedly telling, Tadvigyana Sagurum eva bigachet. Samit pani shrotriyam brahmanishtam. Therefore, if you want to get real knowledge, realized knowledge, then you have to approach Guru with surrender. And what are his qualities? He knows all the Shastra and he is realized soul. Then he can teach you properly. And you also have to be surrendered. And because you will find also in Upanishad, Brahma was teaching Indra and Virochan. Indra is demigod, Virochan is demon. So he gave them same teaching. First he told them, you have to practice brahmacharya, otherwise you cannot understand. So for 32 years they had to do brahmacharya. No association with woman in any way. Means no enjoyment, any kind. Then he instructed them, but Virochan understood wrongly. Indra understood something right, means he was having further question, why this is not good something. Virochan was satisfied with what he heard, but he misunderstood. So he went and he taught all the demons, but wrong knowledge, that we are body and body is to be worshipped. So that is demoniac mentality. I am body and body is the main point. It has to be worshipped, served. But Indra understood that something is not here right, because body is changing all this. There are details there. Then Brahma said, yes, you are right. Then Indra said, you teach me further. What is Atma? Then Brahma said, then you have to stay a student for more time. Again, you have to practice brahmacharya for 32 years. Again, he practiced and he came back again like this. Ultimately, question answer. Ultimately, for 101 years, he had to practice brahmacharya to be able to understand what is Atma, what is our real self and what is Paramatma. Brahma finally could teach him. So we have to take shelter of realized soul. And here the Sai Maharaj is telling, this process of transcendental help by the Lord is described in Bhagavad Gita as follows. Tesham satata juktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi jogam tam jena mamupayantite. The Buddhi Yoga process of self-realization with intelligence, transcendental to the mind, which is devotional service, can alone elevate one from the conditioned state of material entanglement in the cosmic construction. The conditioned state of the living entity is like that of a person who is within the depths of a huge mechanical arrangement. Yes. Everything is mechanical. If you read how this is going on, you will see everything mechanical, by exactly scientific, by the arrangement of Supreme Lord. The mental speculators can reach the point of Buddha Yoga after many, many lifetimes of speculation, but the intelligent person who begins from the platform of intelligence above the mind makes rapid progress in self-realization. Because the Buddha Yoga process entails no fear of deterioration or retrogression at any time. It is guaranteed path to self-realization as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. That Buddha Yoga means Bhakti Yoga, but you have to do it under the guidance of pure devotee. Then there will be no deterioration or a retrogression at any time, and only if someone does some offense to Guru Vaishnava, then that may happen, but only to give him lesson. Then once he will understand that that was wrong and he will rectify himself, then he will continue from where he left, not from beginning. The mental speculators cannot understand that the two birds, here Sai Maharaj is quoting Shvetashvatar Upanishad, but it is also in Gopal Tapani and in other, I think Canto Upanishad also, in different, that verse very famous, Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakaya. There are two conscious beings, sakas, they are friends, sitting in one tree are the soul and the super soul. The individual soul eats the fruit of the tree, while the other bird does not eat the fruit but only observes the activities of the eating bird. Without attachment, the witnessing bird helps the fruit-eating bird perform fruitful activities. He is giving power and he is also giving the result. Jiva cannot do anything by itself, independently. Impossible. And this material body and mind also cannot do anything independently. Everything is powered by Krishna. One who cannot understand this difference between the soul and the super soul, both are conscious, both are transcendental, eternal, but one is supreme, another is subordinate, and one is small particle, one is everything. Between the soul and the super soul, or God and the living entities, is certainly still in the entanglement of the cosmic machinery, and thus must still await the time when he will be freed from bondage. No one can be freed from bondage unless he surrenders to Supreme Lord. So until that time, he will be in bondage. Smaran Vishwa Srija Misho Vigyapitam Adokshaja Virajam Atapat Svena Teja Seisham Vivritaye. The Supreme Lord is the super soul of all the demigods, entrusted with the task of constructing the cosmic manifestation. Being thus prayed to by the demigods, he taught to himself and thus manifested the gigantic form for their understanding. As we hear during Kartik time, when Gurudev is explaining Gajendra Moksha, in that first verse, Om Namo Bhagavate Tasmai Yata Eta Chidatmakam Purushaya Adibijaya Parishaya Vidimahi. He is empowering everything. And Gurudev explained that scientists, they will say how when some light is coming to eye, and then it will go to that subtle process by the nerves and everything, then you can see the picture. But those who are psychologists, they will say, but if mind is not there, if it does not go to mind, then he cannot see. because, or hear. Because in school, if student is there and teacher is explaining, so student is hearing, his ear is okay, but his mind is somewhere else. So if you ask him what I said, he will not be able, because his mind was not there. And seeing also that marriage party of his friend was passing through his eyes, but he was not aware because he was so absorbed in reading that novel. So if it does not go to mind, but if it does not go to intelligence and like this, and jiva, and ultimately super soul. So all this process, how everything is working, we can know from Shastra, from revealed scriptures, by Krishna directly himself, that is Shruti, or from those who have realized the truth. Krishna says in Gita, Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshina. You have to go with surrender to such a soul who is tattva darshi, one who is seeing the truth. By the grace of Krishna, he is seeing what is the truth, everything. So you can learn from him only. It is impossible by inductive process, by these senses and mind, intelligence, and all this. Impossible to understand how everything is working. He has to teach you, reveal to you, one who is seeing, or Krishna. So as Paramatma, he is inspiring from within. You should take shelter of this person, those who are sincere for eternal welfare. Paramatma inside heart, he will direct you. And he will also approve, yes, this one. So everything is under control in this material creation, and in spiritual also everything is under control of Krishna, and all are serving him, and they are fully happy. Atha tasya bitaptasya kati dhayatanani ha nirabi dhyanta devanam tani me gadata shrinu. Maitreya said, you may now hear from me how the Supreme Lord separated himself into diverse forms of the demigods after the manifestation of the gigantic universal form. They are part of his potency. So in that sense, he separated himself in different forms. Tasyagnir asyam nirbhinam lokapalo vishat padam vacha sankshena vaktavyam yayaso pratipadyate. Agni, or heat, separated from his mouth. Agni is also one prominent topic of Upanishads. And all the directors of material affairs entered into it in their respective positions. By that energy, the living entity expresses himself in words. Before I told speech and fire, they are connected. I learned from Upanishads. The mouth of the gigantic universal form of the Lord is the source of the speaking power. The director of the fire element is the controlling deity, or the Adideva. The speeches delivered are Adhyatma, or bodily functions, and the subject matter of the speeches is material productions, or the Adibhuta principle. Everything is connected. And moon is connected with the mind. I with sun, and like this. Nirbinam talu varuno loka palo vishadhare jihvayam shena charasam yayaso pratipadyate. When the palette of the gigantic form was separately manifested, Varuna, the director of air in the planetary systems, entered therein, and thus the living entity has the facility to taste everything with his tongue. See, this is also here. Everything is described in brief. That is why our Gurudev told, in Kali Yuga, our life is very short. So you read Bhagavatam. Everything is there in Bhagavatam. What is necessary for you to hear? Because Mahaprabhu told you, Bhagavat Shravan. Everything is there. You see here, this is all mentioned. If you just read Bhagavatam, everything is there. It is the best Shastra. And it is also not so necessary to memorize everything in detail how it is, but it is enough to know that everything is under the control of Krishna. This is his energy, and ultimately we have to understand that we have to serve him with body, mind, and everything under the guidance of pure devotee. And in due course also, when you are doing bhajan, your vision will also be purified, and then you can also directly perceive how everything is happening. Nirbinne ashvino nase, yes. Vishnur avishatam padam, grane namshena gandasya prati patiryato bhavet. When the Lord's two nostrils separately manifested themselves, the dual Ashwini Kumaras entered them in their proper positions, and because of this, the living entities can smell the aromas of everything. Everything is perfectly connected. It's a complete machinery. Nirbinne akshini tvashta loka palo vishad vibho chakshu shamshena rupanam pratipatiryato bhavet. Now comes this. Thereafter, the two eyes of the gigantic form of the Lord were separately manifested. The sun, the director of light, entered them with the partial representation of eyesight, and thus the living entities can have vision of forms. Nirbinani asya charmani, that is skin. Charma means skin. Lokapalo ni lovishad. Pranenang shena sansparsham yena so pratipadyate. When there was a manifestation of skin separated from the gigantic form, Anil, the deity directing the wind, or Vayu or Anil is same thing, entered with partial touch, and thus the living entities can realize tactical knowledge, means touch. Karno asya vinirbhino dishnyam svam vivishur disha Shrotrenang shena shabdasya siddhim yena prapadyate. When the ears of the gigantic form became manifested, all the controlling deities of the directions entered into them with the hearing principles by which all the living entities hear and take advantage of sound. This also I was not aware before. It is always these directions. Directions also have their own deities, presiding deities. They are many times mentioned. Tvacham asya vinirbhinnam vivishur dishnam oshadi angshena romabih kandum yair aso pratipadyate. When there was a separate manifestation of skin, the controlling deities of sensations and their different parts entered into it. And thus the living entities feel itching and happiness due to touch. So Gurudev told, there is not so much time in Kali Yuga. You don't know when you will die. So you have to hear Bhagavatam. Everything is there. Medram tasya vinirbhinnam swadishnyam ka upavishat reta sankshena yenaso anandam pratipadete. This is genital. When the genitals of the gigantic form separately became manifest, then Prajapati, the original living creature, entered into them with his partial semen, and thus the living entities can enjoy sex pleasure. That is also in all Upanishads. You will find all this description in yes, then further is evacuating. Yes, tomorrow we will hear further how this is all connected, how it is working under the strict supervision of Supreme Lord. Everything in this material creation. Nothing is coincidence.